Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Coal Black and the Sebben Dwarfs, released in 1943. It's the 391st in the series and it's directed by Bob Clampett. It is the 8th in the infamous Censored 11 series. As such, there is no official release for this short. As for this print, the person who scanned it is aware I'm using it, but he's chosen to remain anonymous. So in case you haven't seen this one, it is under copyright, so I can't show you the full cartoon on YouTube, but this is an African-American hot jazz take on Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, the Disney film in particular. And it's also set in World War II, so you're going to have plenty of World War II references and gags. So first up, you're going to see a re-edit of the original audio commentary I did with my good friend SC McPeter. After that, you'll hear some new thoughts from me, and then after that, you'll hear a sample from the Bob Clampett retrospective video I did, where my good friend Huey Nelson, who is a person of colour, provides his thoughts on this particular short. So, grab some popcorn and enjoy the review.
This apple's just for me. Don't stand there blabbing, woman. Just try it and see.
Yes, so we hear Lillian Randolph, and who's the voice of Mammy Two Shoes in the Tom and Jerry series. And this silhouette, I wouldn't be surprised if that was Bob McKimson. I just have a funny feeling. I have read that some people of colour actually rather enjoy this one, even though they think maybe, okay, the stereotypes are heavy-handed, but. What I want to see in the comments below, if you are someone of color, I mean, what do you think of this one? I genuinely want to see other opinions, because we here we are, just two white guys. We've even got a Jimmy Durante joke for crying out loud here, with the big nose and that. It's like that's pretty random. Also notice that the animation is very bouncy. If you look at the entire short, everyone's just bobbing and bouncing to the music as we see this newfound obsession with Jeeps. That seems to be around this time. As we wind in the cartoon, it's a patriot thing in the end, where the person that wakes her up happens to be a US soldier as well. So nice little touch in the end. So those were my original thoughts at the time. So these dwarves appear to be caricatures of Fats Waller, who was an African-American entertainer at the time, who was notably of short stature, and one of the other dwarves is a parody of Stephen Fetchard, whom is no stranger to the Censored 11, and my guess is that the gag was, well, since Snow White had a dwarf that was called Dopey, they wanted, well, a dopey dwarf. So, yeah, that's what I think happened here. Now, one of the reasons I don't hold this in as high as regard as a lot of animation historians is that it's firmly rooted in World War II. So, as you can see here, you've got the tires and the sugar, and basically all that stuff was rationed at the time, so of course the gag was that it was as valuable as gold. This war gag here should be pretty self-explanatory. I'll let you figure that out. And of course, the dwarves are dressed as US Army soldiers. Now, author Christopher P. Lehman, who wrote the wonderful book, The Colored Cartoon, Black Representation in American Animated Short Films, he commented that this was one of the major issues that the NAACP had over this film, that it was a decided caricature of Negro life and an insult to the race, and they called the depictions of African-American soldiers during wartime as a disgraceful image, as you can see here. Now, I can see where they're coming from, as if you look at a lot of wartime propaganda, you'll see a lot of white soldiers as this, tall, tough American fighting soldier, let's get 'em boys kind of thing, whereas here, they're just, played for laughs. Now, of course, that's not Clampett's intention, he's just parodying Snow White, and of course they had dwarves there. Now, that bottle there, Eli Whitney's Cotton Gin, that's of course a double play there, because of course you're thinking gin, it's like an alcoholic beverage there, but a cotton gin is a machine that quickly and easily separates cotton fibers from their seeds, and Eli Whitney was the person that helped popularize that mass production method. That Chattanooga Choo Choo's reference there is based off a song called the Chattanooga Choo Choo that was written by Mack Gordon and composed by Harry Warren, and Harry Warren's no stranger to what songs were used in the Warner Brothers cartoons. When Prince Charming says Rosebud, when you see the lips close up, that's a reference to Citizen Kane, where Orson Welles says Rosebud and you see his face like that. So this short has a fascinating history that, to be quite honest, it's more interesting than the short itself, at least to me, and I'll explain why later on. But if you want detailed information, I urge you to read the book I mentioned earlier by Christopher Lehman, and there is further information regarding the voices in Keith Scott's wonderful Cartoon Voices book. But just to summarise, as you'd expect, this is Clampett's tribute to black music. So Clampett attended Duke Ellington's stage musical Jump for Joy and ended up meeting the cast and crew for a cartoon musical done in the same spirit. And just to put things into further context, at Schlesinger's at the time, Mel Blanc was the main voice artist under exclusive contract, and given his range, it made sense cost-wise to have him do most of the voices, save for, female voices and certain highly specialised voices like imitations and that sort of thing. So it's kind of unusual that in the short we have not only a larger voice cast at this point in time, but also a larger voice cast of African American actors. There are only 2 white cast members in this short, so you still have Mel Blanc, who unfortunately does the dated style of voices for the dwarves, along with a few other minor bits, and you have Danny Webb as the Wicked Queen, and this so happens to be his last voice role. Now, after much research at various black venues, like nightclubs, that sort of thing, the voice cast came together. So you have Vivian Dandridge as So White, and you also have Lillian Randolph, and you may know her from the Tom and Jerry films as the Mammy character. So, of course, she plays the Mammy character here. Louis Armstrong was actually supposed to be Prince Charming, but he was replaced with Leo Foot Watson due to a touring commitment. Now, the music, which in my opinion outshines even the wonderful animation, was still done by Carl Starling with his arranger Mel Franklin, and that was just due to having the Warner Studio Orchestra under contract. However, they still collaborated with black musicians such as Eddie Beale, and the final scene we see Prince Charming trying to kiss So White, that was done by all black musicians. So here is a sample from the Bob Clampett Part 2 retrospective, where my good friend Huey Nelson goes through what he thinks about this particular cartoon.
As a black man, and this is a cartoon, the music and Clampett's gags are on point. Everything is, I can say, I'm glad they use an African American band. The voice acting is pretty good. Some of the gags are landing, but still kind of fell into the ignorance of the especially with the imagery, where they don't even look human. I'm gonna just separate this for gender specifically. This cartoon kind of affects the black woman a little bit more, because around this time there was, even before that, the black woman was labeled as more promiscuous, and these Jezebel stereotypes, it still kind of plagues them to this day, even in modern day media, where they use black women as darker skin or maybe brown skin, but they're more of they're even from young, they make them fast, promiscuous, basically. They kind of make them seem like, when you look at a black woman, you can't give into they can't give into their primal urges. It's just, and this is the same thing with the black male. It kind of makes them seem like, the black male he can't give into his primal urges, and the black woman is promiscuous. They kind of put these stereotypes on us, and you can see where So White, as she calls herself, she's wearing in the Disney Snow White, she's kind of dressed more respectable, but she's still beautiful, where here her outfit is generally kind of in a promiscuous fashion. This is the over hyper sexualization of the black female, where black women actually do love to be next to Caucasian females, the standard definition of beauty. They like being pretty, but there's a difference of hyper sexualizing them and just only seeing them for just their bodies. Like, you can see a bunch of black women you may see them on Twitter and Instagram shaking their butts, but that doesn't mean that they are human beings. They are beautiful as well, but they also have thoughts and feelings and emotions just like other women. They're not someone you can just look at, I have a primal urge to bed one and just and just go about my merry way. They're not the type of women like that. They're women just like everyone else, and society labels them as more fast and easy. And this is where you can see in So White where she's kidnapped by the the guys that kidnapped her, saying we killed Japs for free. And there's also where she's kissing her kidnappers, and then she does it again in the army to the little army dwarves. And then also there's the other stereotype, the mammy role that Black women seem to play as well, that tends to plague them, where specifically in the future in the media, Black women seem to play only those two roles. And it's worse is now, even in weird culture that's dominated by Black people, they tend to internalize these stereotypes, where even in rap music, you see darker skin or brown skinned females shaking their butts in rap music, and also adding more fuel for people to see these stereotypes. So on both sides are kind of making it worse when Black women want to get away from this stereotype, because there's never been a positive representation of Black women in the media. The animation is good. I kind of like Rob Scribner's animation here, where it gets all wild, especially when the dwarf, I think this dwarf is most likely Dopey, where he kisses So White at the end.
So to wrap up this review, I do have one thing to say about it. So this short is in the top 100 Looney Tunes book and has been cited by many historians as one of the greatest cartoons ever made despite the imagery, and it's been branded as Clampett's masterpiece. And hold that view, fair enough, but I happen to disagree. In fact, I'm very much a contrarian here. Clampett's masterpiece to me is The Great Piggy Bank Robbery, but he's made so many great shorts that many of them can be contenders for that title of his masterpiece. Now, historians will cite the music and animation in this short as amazing, and yes, I'm in agreement. More so on the music, perhaps, but I'm definitely in agreement. And the animation bounces so nicely to the music that you just can't help but bop to it yourself, Clampett's goal was to clearly bring what he saw at all those black nightclubs and shows, and he wanted to bring it to animation. And on that front, he succeeds. And he succeeds very well, I might add. Not to mention, actually getting people of colour to be involved in his production definitely adds to the experience. So why am I contrarian on this status of the short being one of the greatest ever made? First of all, the short's inclusions of the World War II references hurts it. This short was always going to end up as being a time capsule of sorts when it comes to black music, among other things, but the World War II references turns what should have really been a more straightforward parody of Disney's Snow White with beautiful music into a short that becomes dated rather than an intriguing time capsule. There is no question that Clampett wanted to honour black musicians and by extension the black community by creating something entertaining, but why add the dice teeth to the prince? Why make the dwarves look so deformed? Why the Chalman name? Why the suggestive scene with Snow White and all those kidnappers where she's clearly done some stuff with them, if you get my meaning? Look, some things I can let slide due to the time period of when this came out, like the different stereotypes used and the way some of the characters are drawn. When watching stuff like this of the time period, you need to do that. And in fact, of the Censored 11, this one is definitely one of the least offensive. But it just doesn't change the fact that this short is a frustrating watch for me. And once again, I'm going to bring up my Birth of a Nation movie analogy. I can admire this film for its technical prowess, and I genuinely enjoy a lot of moments from this short, but there are just too many things that prevent me from declaring this one as a masterpiece, or even a flawed masterpiece, as some have actually said. So, I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It's a solid, yet flawed short, with many fun moments, but yeah, with just as many eye-roll moments. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.
Man, what you got that makes So White think you so hot?
Well, that is a military secret.